Hi YouTube.
Hi YouTube.
Hi,
Hello,
YouTube.
hello everybody. We're live on all platforms that we're on.
Right. All two of them.
Yeah, all two of them.
That's funny.
So what's up?
What's poppin'?
How y'all
What's
doing?
up?
Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff.
all that stuff we normally say at the end. Just do it now. We
Yeah.
know you're gonna like this episode
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing episodes now.
or this podcast, whatever. You know what I mean. They know what I mean.
Are we on center camera?
Yeah. Okay. We're
Cool. Because
professionals.
I'm
don't
looking at
worry.
it then
Yes.
now, and I'm like, we're doing this one, and I'm just
Yeah.
over here staring.
And we're back. We actually got a full table of youth.
Full
this
seat of
time.
tables.
No offense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Full table.
Full seat of tables we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, but full table of youth this time. No offense, Mr. Siri, but it's been quite a while since we've
You're
had.
too old to be classified as youth.
I know.
Period.
It's been quite a while since we've had a full table like this.
It has.
So it's
good
good
old
to be
days.
back.
Yeah.
I'm back too. Hi.
He's back.
Nice.
That was my first podcast I ever missed last time. It wasn't last week, but last time I needed a break, even though that wasn't really a break. But I'm back, and so today, November 10th. What are we talking about today? What are we talking about?
Talking about dealing with conflict.
Talking about dealing with conflict.
Yep.
All right. Why? Why are we talking about it?
Because conflict is literally everywhere.
Every day, like an everyday occurrence, or maybe not every day, but you're gonna run into it sometime or another.
Yeah.
And if you don't,
There's something
I
wrong with
envy
you.
you. But if you're a normal person like us, we're all normal and cool people. You're gonna run into conflict.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a cool thing that happens to cool people.
Yep.
Yeah.
It happens to cool people.
Don't-
I'm
You're supposed to try to avoid conflict.
yeah, it's not
Cool people get it.
Hey, cool
Mm-hmm.
cool people get all sorts of hate thrown their way. All right? That's
Ooh.
just a perk of being cool.
Hey, that's
And conflict comes with that. Now, I'm not necessarily saying conflict is always derived from hate.
What, I love
anyways.
this drink.
So what's some personal experiences you guys have had with conflict? If you had to pick one, I know everybody has multiple.
If she wants to look at me, I'm going to go ahead and say my side of the story.
Okay, well remember,
Keep it
we're
quick.
not a professional.
Yeah.
We're not professional couples therapy.
Oh.
So we can only, me and Silas can only provide our best advice, but we're not professionals.
Oh yeah.
I guess to keep it bland, not to go into too much detail, but whenever me and her conflict and we have an argument, the other day we had a bit of a rougher one, and I was trying to talk it out with her, and we both just kept getting more and more angry. And we both had to step away from the situation. She said she wanted to go and take a break. I told her, I was like, that's okay. Take your mind off of things. Just please be safe. Let me know when you're going to come back. And whenever she came back, we talked it out. We had more to talk about since we had more time to think. And sometimes just stepping away from the problem, depending on how bad it is,
Yeah.
can help.
Yeah, I think it's always good to always have a clear mind whenever you want to deal with conflict. Because at the end of the day, I think it's human nature to want to blame somebody else. We don't want to be wrong, right? And so then when you're all gassed up, when you're angry and you got your emotions running on 10, it's hard to kind of step back and say, okay, maybe there is something that I'm doing, and normally that is the case for both sides.
Mhm.
What about you, Silas?
Well, sometimes you do need the space to just kind of clear your head. It's as you said. You don't want to admit you're wrong.
Mhm.
You should. It's about the right thing to do, and it helps you learn and grow. But it's human nature to not want to do it because it's kind of maybe an ego or thing or whatever. Who knows? But you're just like, no, I refuse to be wrong. I'm right. I know it all. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're by yourself, you can kind of clear your head more and be like, okay, maybe it was my fault. Maybe I could have done things better. So I could see that being a good thing.
Yeah. And are you in the same boat as him, or?
Yeah, I guess. Sometimes it's not necessarily anyone's fault.
Yeah.
It's just little attitude here or there that causes bigger attitude that causes fights or arguments or whatever. And for me personally, like, I get over emotional really, really quickly. And so I have to like distance myself from what is making me angry or what is making me stressed or what is making me whatever. And I have to distance myself so I don't think about it. So I don't like overthink because I overthink a lot. And in that situation, it was I needed to get away and think for a little while.
Yeah. The
Not say things I,
later regret.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, space is always, that's always a good thing when it comes to conflict, especially when you're in the heat of the moment. I feel like, I know one of the more regular conflicts, thankfully it's not as regular anymore, is I deal with my brother, and when he throws his fits and he explodes, it's not frequent anymore. Thank the Lord for that. But for, I don't know if you two are aware, but then also for anybody who else isn't aware, my brother has autism. It's relatively high functioning, and so, you know, it's he doesn't act the same, to put it lightly, you know, and so when he blows up or like explodes or whatever, you know, it's full force. And for us, we've learned that for a lot of things, there's not really much we can do in that instance except to give that space. And to tie it back to, like, you know, not wanting to be wrong, that's really one of the worst things we could try and do with him is, you know, say, no, you're not doing, no, you need to do this. That is essentially like his trigger phrase, like, no, you need to, and then it's all over from there. But, yeah, and so I feel like that's a very, very different situation, but I think that there's still lessons to be learned from that, because we often talk about him, you know, as he's a regular person, he's a human being with human emotions, but he doesn't necessarily have that filter to let it all out. So, you know, once he's frustrated and wants to let it out, he's going to let it out one way or another, and that can lead to conflicts between me and him and my parents, him and me and my parents, you know, like, it's a struggle, but I think it also shows another aspect of conflict that you need to keep in mind when you are approaching it, which is, you know, stay patient with the other person, especially if you're hoping to reach a resolution, right? Because I mean, I feel like the whole point that we have conflicts is because we want to reach a resolution, but each side is not agreeing on what the resolution is.
Or going at it a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like when you said that your brother doesn't like being told that he needs to stop what he's doing and do something else, I feel like that applies to everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody likes being told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody. Whether you're 2 or whether you're 85, it really doesn't matter. And I feel like sometimes when your partner or friend or whoever you're arguing with says, you're doing this wrong, this is how you need to do it, you need to do this, that's kind of like a trigger in itself.
Yeah. Well, and even not with my brother, but just, you know, from more personal experience, I've found that whenever, especially in conflicts, because I'm definitely like a problem solver. So if you got a problem or if we've got a problem, I want to say, here's the solution, let's do it. But that doesn't always work, you know.
Yeah.
Especially with emotions, XYZ, and all that stuff. I just totally blanked. Where was I going with that?
Somewhere XYZ.
Yeah.
Last 3 letters of the alphabet.
Yeah, last 3 letters of the alphabet. Oh, but that's what I was saying. So, you know, conflicts, for the resolution has to be two-way. It can't be all one-way communicated. I feel like I've never had success with that, or genuine success. You know, but the communication has to occur for a solution to be reached. And yeah. Is there any other personal experiences we'd like to share before we look at what the Bible has to say about it? Or
I've had a lot, but one recently, there were like 2 weeks I had a lot on my plate, and it was kind of stressful, and I kind of took it out on people the wrong way. I told them sorry. Fortunately, they've forgiven me, but I had to do like house sitting for my sister, and she has a lot of pets, especially cats. She's a cat person. And so I had to balance doing that as well as like work, especially, which I work 8 hours a day, pretty much. And so it was like hard to balance all of that as well as like help my family with stuff at home. And so it got to the point where stress got to me, and like there would be some people at work, I might have said some things that was a bit harsh, like kind of back talk, and saying like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm not doing this wrong. And
Yeah.
And one of my coworkers, he kind of has a rough life outside of work, but of course nobody like appreciates him or is nice to him at work. So I try to be nice to him. I'm like one of his only friends he has. So I was kind of harsh to him that day. And then the following week, when I saw him again, I told him, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that." And then I got him a pretzel to make up for it.
As you should. As you should.
So that
Pretzels fix everything.
Exactly.
So that was-
It's duct tape and pretzels.
Oh yeah,
that
so
was-
especially if it's
Duct tape.
jalapeno.
Duct tape fixes everything, and so does pretzels.
Oh.
Duct tape you and give you a pretzel.
I was like, wait, what?
So that was the resolution, was going and, you know, apologizing and making amends, right?
Oh yeah.
So you went to him, like, you know, one-on-one and said, hey, let's squash this. Done.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean,
Well, that ties in. Maybe
I'm gonna
coincidentally,
go to
maybe
you
not.
and be like,
Squashed.
So that ties in, we'll say coincidentally, to what we're looking at here in the Bible, which is Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 20. 15 through 20, and it says, if your brother or sister sins, I'm reading from the New International Version, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen, take 1 or 2 others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church, and if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you that if 2 of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am with them. So what's that say? What does that mean? I mean, I know what it says. I just read it, but...
so if you're having trouble with somebody or a conflict with somebody, pull them aside one-on-one, talk to them. If they don't listen, bring 1 or 2 more people. Be like, hey, we've noticed this. This is kind of what we need to do. We need to fix. If that doesn't work, then talk to the church.
Yeah. When I find it interesting, the last part, which is where if they still refuse to listen, cut them off. Which, essentially, that's what it was saying. It was saying, treat them as a pagan or a tax collector. Which is...
No one likes
Isn't
tax
that-
collectors.
Yeah, well, the
Isn't
church
that
doesn't
kind of like
pagans,
the opposite of like God's whole message, though? Or Jesus' whole message was
Well-
like love and kindness, and then they're
Well, to
like,
that I
oh,
would
if they don't,
say-
if they don't,
To that I would say, so...
You can still
Looking-
love someone.
Looking into this, it looks as if, you know, this person has rejected a attempted solution to conflict 3 times, right? At this point, it seems like they don't want to solve the problem, right? And if they don't want to solve the problem and they're, you know, still creating drama or that tension in the church, you know, is that really... Do you really want to keep them around? And
I mean,
say the
you don't have to
church-
keep them around, but I don't think treating them like dirt is going to help anything.
Well, I don't think that's what it's called to do, you know, because at the same time, you know, Jesus, the very 2 foundations of his teachings were to love others and love God. And so if you treated them like if you treated them like dirt, then it doesn't really seem like you'd be loving others at that point.
Yeah, but that's what that basically says. Treat them like peasants or like tax collectors, and that's basically
Pagan. Which
whatever.
there's
That's not treating them with kindness, though. That's what it's saying.
Well, okay,
You can still love someone
let's-
from a distance.
What's the context of who this is between? Like, what's like the title of this, or who's it between?
Let me go back. This is in his
Alright, very
teaching.
good.
At the
Very good.
time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked. I'm reading from verse 1. Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And he called a little child to them, and he placed the child among them. And he said, Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes a lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, and whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And then he goes into causing to stumble. If anyone causes one of these little ones to stumble, those who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and thrown it in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of the things that cause people to stumble. Such things must come, but woe to the person through whom they come. If your hand or your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life maimed or crippled than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to stumble, gorge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into the fire of hell. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven will always see the face of my Father in heaven. What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, he will not leave the 99 on the hills and go look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. And that's reading up to them.
Right. And then, what was right at the beginning of 15? What does it say?
At 15, oh, come on.
Like, if any of your...
If your brother or sister sins, go point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over.
So this is, the context of this is you're talking about between church members,
Mm.
right? So think about, say, a leader in the church, and he's causing someone to sin in that situation. That's where you're trying to, so that's like the specific context of this, is like, hey, you're talking about other church people that are causing other people to sin. So you're going to them and you're confronting them about that. Well, if you're talking about a church leader, right, and they're, after 3 times, like you mentioned, they're not willing to change that,
Mm.
right? They're purposely like going against what God is saying, what God is teaching. That's when you need to cut them off. Not in the sense of cut them off as in like, I'm never going to speak to you again.
Like excommunication in
Right.
the Catholic Church, yeah.
Right. But more of like, hey, we can't have you in this leadership position anymore, right? Like, I didn't say like hate tax collectors, but
Yeah.
like they're not like in the leadership position of like, hey, come on, come lead our church.
What I was going to say, I don't think it was hating tax collectors because don't forget Matthew, the disciple,
Yeah.
was previously a tax collector. And, but at the same time, the Jewish, especially, I don't know exactly where he is, but I presume that he's speaking to the Jewish people at this point, and everybody, I feel like it's pretty common knowledge the Jews' stance on tax collectors. It was, they did not like tax collectors whatsoever. And I was also going to pose it this way,
Thank you.
as
You're welcome.
as interpersonal relationships, and you look in like a friend group per se, right? And you have one friend who's always causing drama, stirring up things, causing the whole friend group's, a relationship to waver and threaten to break apart. Do you really want to keep them around?
I mean, you can put that same perspective on family.
I mean, but
Gosh, you got a point.
the case still stands.
But I mean, either way it goes, depending on the situation, I personally don't talk to my stepmom anymore. I don't care. I'll put that out there. But I don't really want her around. Now it comes to the next person like her. I'm gonna keep trying and trying and trying.
But then there's always going to be that point, though, to where at which, I'm not saying this is like either of you. I realized I should preface
in
that,
general,
but
in
just in
general.
general with people, if it comes to that point where you're not going to change, or whatever, like then what's the point of talking to a brick wall?
Yeah.
And I think that's what in essence, the cutting off part of this is talking about is if somebody is not willing to change and they're causing problems, well, then you need to put them in a position where they're not able to cause these problems. Maybe that doesn't mean like excommunication, like don't talk to me, but
Taking away their power.
yeah, or taking, like if it's a church leader, like Mr. Siri was saying, taking them out of that position of authority, and reinstating somebody else in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's hope it doesn't have to come to that.
Let's hope.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Right.
Yep. So just to go back to, oh, that's great. It closed on me. But just to go back to what the rest of the verse was talking about, as to actually resolve conflict, because that was told as like a last resort, essentially. And I find it really interesting, verse 18, where it says, "Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." And yeah.
Is that talking about like spiritually?
Well, I mean, this whole thing is talking about, like interpersonally, or like, from person to person. And yeah, I think that's really interesting because in heaven, there's going to be no more conflict, no more violence. Maybe I can't necessarily speak with 100% certainty for conflict, period, but I'd like to think that. And then, obviously no more violence, pain, suffering, sorrow, all of that stuff. But, if you think about it, like, I don't know, does that mean, like, not everybody's going to be your best friend in heaven? Like, you'll still have your circle or something? Or is it, like...
Doesn't it say in the Bible that once you go up to heaven, everything is perfect? Or along those lines?
Yeah.
Why would there be sections?
Yeah, well...
Wouldn't everybody live in complete harmony?
And that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm wondering, because, if it's talking about whatever you bind on this earth, so, I'm assuming, like, whatever relationship you build on this earth will be bound in heaven.
But I don't think that'll work, because what if that person that you make a connection with doesn't believe in God or doesn't love God?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, that could make sense. So what if it's talking about more like...
Personal
I'm way back
traits?
here.
Is that what I mean? Like,
What if it's more like your belief with God Himself? Whatever
It
you
could
bind,
be.
whatever you bind on earth with God will be there in heaven. Whatever you don't bind won't be there in heaven.
But what if you're wrong?
What if the Bible's wrong? I mean, we could go on and on about what if, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Lots of what ifs.
Yeah.
I thought you gave me that.
Oh no, I have more.
Oh, okay.
It's like a well.
I refilled
he sets it down and
He
it
says
refills
Mary
from the bottom.
Poppins just pulls out.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah.
I think
That's funny.
I think it's talking about what the church is deciding, like as a whole, right? Because it's telling. Then you take it to the church, decides treat that person as a pagan or tax collector. I tell you the truth, whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven. So I think it's saying like, if you as a church, I feel like it's going to be hurting your church to let this continue. Then it's kind of like you have the support of heaven behind that. I don't necessarily think it's like
Well, and I think
like that you're changing like, oh, if us as church leaders are deciding this, then God's gonna just automatically agree with us. But I think it's like, hey, as a church body, then that's like kind of helping.
if that's the
bring
best
everyone
foot
together.
forward, then
Then
it will
that's-
be so.
Yeah.
Well, I find it interesting. What translation are you reading out of?
New Living Translation.
New Living
I
Translation.
told you.
I know. Well, I just picked a different one that was more modern. But
Did you have fun with that? Okay.
I find it interesting that it used the word forbid. Which, I mean, it makes sense in here, bind, now that I know what's forbid. But, bind, normally I think if something is bound, then it's tied
Unbreakable.
together. Or, like if you bind
A bond.
like two sticks, you're tying them together. So I just assume. Yeah, I guess it's good we looked at other translations. So thank you, Mr. Siri.
No problem.
And as Mr. Siri in the background, if you We're not aware.
Not Siri
And
from
my
the
young
phone.
members of the table.
Yeah, we kicked him out of the table.
Yeah, he's not a youth member.
He's our youth director.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah, he's taking
He's
the whole
got authority.
He's got the position of power.
taking the whole thing very seriously.
Yeah.
He's on the cameras though. He's cool.
Don't cause us to stumble. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So I think the main thing there is like, what are the 3 steps that it goes through
Yeah.
in dealing with conflict?
Yeah, it's the
In the,
one-on-one.
in the Bible, or
Yeah,
Yeah, or like what we
it
just
went through,
read.
like 3 steps, like step 1, step 2, and then step 3.
talk to the
One-on-one.
person individually, right?
Yep. And then small group. Like it says 2 or 3 more.
Talk,
Uh-huh.
small group.
Talk
And
to
then
the church.
church. Yes.
Right.
Big group.
So that makes sense if we're in a church situation, but what if your conflict is with a coworker? You know what I mean? You're not
The
going to be
Yeah.
like,
boss.
I've got the
High
perfect
conflict.
example for this one.
Oh,
what?
I've got the perfect example.
Go.
In my life, I've had a rough upbringing. Did stuff I wasn't really supposed to do. Got help for it. I'm good now. Cool. Anyways, when I was doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing, I'd be at work, and I wouldn't really be in my right mind. And it was a very small kitchen. There was no place to put the dishes unless I was the only person in that area. Well, there were 5 people in this area 24/7, and I had to squeeze through to give them dishes because I was the dishwasher. And one day my boss got mad because it was a busy day, and I guess I got in his way, and he was like, "Get out of my way." And he'd been nagging at me all day. I wasn't having a good day, and again, wasn't in my right mind. I looked him dead in the face and was like, "F you." I was mad, and I should have gotten fired right there. But I think he realized that he was nagging at me all day because we both stepped away from each other for the rest of the shift, came back before we clocked out and was like, "Hey, look, you're my boss. I'm sorry. Like, we both had a long day. I wasn't trying to like get at you or anything.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm sorry, and I hope that we're still cool." And we were cool after that. We shook hands and everything. But sometimes I think sometimes you need to snap in order to gain respect from other people in order to be cool with them.
Yeah.
Because after that, we were great.
Well, and that's
no
how,
problem.
And I mean, just looking at relationships really get stronger when they're tested,
Yes,
right?
very much so.
Which I think that was a testing, and I think that just verifies this text even more, because you go to him one-on-one, he listens, and by that definition, you've won him over. And just thinking about in a broader sense, like that was at work, but what if that didn't work? Well, the next...
I would have lost my job. That would have been
Okay,
very funny.
assuming you didn't oh my goodness, assume you didn't lose your job. I guess the next step following this would, get some coworkers and be like, hey, this is what we saw, XYZ, can we solve this? But then next when it talks about the church, and here, I think really for like a workplace environment, it could be like an establishment, because at the end of the day, the church was like the collection of believers.
Believers?
Believers. I love you. You're a believer.
Oh man, it's been a long day.
You
Sorry.
good?
Yeah.
we're all tired.
She's the one with braces, man. Come on now.
Bro, they put wires in the top of my mouth and like a little bumper thing, and it's like I can't touch the roof of my mouth with my tongue, and it's causing me to have this like lisp type thing, and I
Off topic.
hate it.
That's rough, buddy.
Continuing.
Now with that little tidbit. So, the church really was the collection of the believers and kind of the establishment for believers, right? So I think if it's a workplace situation or a school situation or, any situation where there's an establishment, then, bringing in somebody of higher authority from that establishment, albeit it gets a little more complicated when, like it's your boss. But at the end of the day, there is higher authority than your boss, so...
Especially with my situation, it's kind of hard to grab other people when you told your boss "F you."
Yeah.
That's a
And
little tough.
Sometimes it gets a little complicated, but sometimes that resolution for the conflict, I feel like, is just having to accept the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
It's definitely not easy, and it's not.
What will you learn? That your actions
consequences.
And that is a hard thing to learn. You know,
Yes,
it's,
it is. It is.
so it's not always easy to accept.
I'm
But
so tired. Just vines going through my head. Okay, anyway.
I was
Sorry.
gonna do that too.
You would. That was a good high five. That was a solid high five.
Facts.
Good little
Anyways.
clap.
you know, but,
Okay, come on.
Anyways.
That's the
bear
topic.
with us.
So-
bear with us. So topic,
So,
topic,
to finish,
topic.
finish it. What time are we at? Finish
We're
it.
at 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Minutes. Oh,
so
this
how-
is one of the shorter ones. At least when I'm on.
So how would we go about solving solutions in conflicts? I mean,
Conflicts.
from my personal situation, I had to step away.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, I step away, or I'll try to talk it out right there.
Yeah.
But there's got to be other ways than just that. How
Well,
do we fix that?
So, in conclusion,
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm hungry, sorry.
All good.
so in conclusion, I think looking at the text as a whole, we have our steps to take, right? We have the one-on-one, we have the two, 3, 4 on one, and then we have the church addressing this person. So we have our steps to take, but I think it's also important that we have to have Jesus or God with this solution, right? It can't be a selfish, one-sided thing. Because
Yeah.
notice at the end it did say where 2 or 3 are gathered, and they want something. What exactly did it say?
Wasn't it like,
I know
Where-
a different translation. Where 2 or more are gathered in my name.
I am there? Like,
I am with them.
Yeah.
And verse 19 says, again, truly I tell you that if 2 of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am with them.
yeah.
And with talking about conflict, I think this definitely shows if, if both people really want something to be fixed, or if they want a resolution to a problem, God is there with them, and God will be there with them through the process of fixing the problem, which I feel like is very necessary, considering that He's the ultimate healer, literally, interpersonally and spiritually, emotionally, XYZ.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
Growing up, I was kind of forced to. What?
Was that
Am I gonna
actually
talk?
you? I thought it was thundering, and I was
Yeah,
like,
it's thunder.
Growing up, I was kind of forced into the whole Christian religion, stuff like that. So I never really wanted to be a big part of it.
Mm.
But I'm pretty sure I remember somewhere in the Bible it saying that God is love and forgiveness and
Yeah.
peace and joy and all that.
it's in John 1.
So with that being said,
Bible nerd.
That's
So-
just me being a good Christian boy and knowing my Bible.
oh, you know it. But
As you should.
Sorry.
I'm like, how do you just.
Let him continue.
Okay, sorry, go.
when dealing with conflict, wouldn't you would want God on your side, because if God is forgiveness, then He's one of the only ways you're gonna be able to get through it. Because you can't have forgiveness trying to go into an argument, or you have to have forgiveness trying to go into an argument if you want to get anywhere with that.
Yeah. Whether it was
Yep.
your fault or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, most of the time, it's not just one person's fault. It's a little
It's
bit
a
of both.
group.
it's a collective thing.
Yep.
All in it together.
Hmm.
We're
Just don't
all in this together.
As the credits roll, no, I'm just kidding.
Is there something I could add if we have time?
Go ahead.
All right. Something
We're
I
doing
was
great
thinking.
on time.
Oh,
compared
we
to
got
normal.
plenty of time.
All right. Something to add after hearing David's story. I think the best thing to do sometimes, depending on the scenario, no matter the feelings and emotions you're feeling, and if you're comfortable telling the person or group, just let it go. No matter the emotions, just let it go, because it's just bad to hold it all inside you, because it'll just make it worse for either people around you or you especially, because you're just having all that burden, all that luggage and everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes hard truth is the best truth.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hated hearing that, but it's so true, so true.
It's like a Band-Aid.
That's
You
the
just
hard
gotta...
truth.
You gotta rip it off.
Yeah.
And that's the hard truth about hard truth.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Oh, wait.
What are we
Cafe
gonna-
Youth.
So Cafe Youth is
Wait, is it
The
not? It's 2
27th.
weeks.
It's not
27th.
this Sabbath or the next one, but it's the one.
Wait, it's
after
in
that.
2 weeks, I think.
27th. 27th. It's
no,
not
it's
next
in 2
week.
weeks.
It's not
this
next week.
Saturday, not next Saturday, but the following.
Oh, it's in 3 weeks.
3?
3
Ah,
weeks.
oh.
right.
Right
Because if
after
not, I
Thanksgiving.
was going to be freaking out because that's our informal banquet.
Oh yeah.
And
No, it's the 27th.
No invite? Kind of fake.
Yeah,
I
kind of
mean,
fake, bro.
if you want to come, it'll be $20 a person.
Everybody
But-
on Facebook and YouTube, if y'all are watching this, there's a $20
I'm just kidding. I was just joking. I'm married. I'm joking.
Will there be food?
Unless you know.
Will there be food? Right?
No kidding.
Well, yeah, it's a
Yeah, but you gotta make the
Informal?
food.
It's a banquet. There's gonna be food.
Informal.
What kind of
So
food?
Cafe Youth on the 27th.
food
Cafe on the
cafe.
27th.
Youth on
We
the
can-
27th.
We're doing the
talk
we're doing
about
the
this
thingy,
later.
right?
We're doing what?
The Try Not to Laugh challenge.
Yeah.
We are.
Try Not to Laugh
Yeah.
challenge. Yes, come
Dang, I
and
miss a
see
lot.
that.
The
And it's gonna be really
cha-
funny.
The what?
Where you put the water in your mouth and the other person has to make you laugh and
You don't spit it on them.
Oh,
to get
it's
it
like
back.
that-
that trend on YouTube. The
one week.
like you laugh, you lose challenge.
Yeah.
The 1 week I'm not here, man. So much gets done.
Any spoilers on next week's topic?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, next
because
2
we
weeks
do it
topic.
once every
a
other week.
fortnight.
Every fortnight.
Every fortnight. Any spoilers, or are we just going as we go?
No spoilers.
We don't know yet.
We don't know
No
yet.
spoilers.
No spoilers.
We're
Tune-
just
tune in
going
the
the
next
There's
2
nothing
weeks
to
for-
Going where
spoil.
the
We
wind
don't even know
takes
what it
us.
is.
Hey,
Yeah, there was no.
we know. We're just not going to spoil it.
Oh,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah, we know,
My
we know.
bad.
We're so
we know what it
prepared.
is.
If only you could see our calendar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. It's packed. It's
Nothing.
packed.
Yeah,
got planning
the
meetings
calendar's
every
like
other day.
right behind the cameras. It's
Oh,
it's
if
crazy.
only-
Oh yeah, it's huge, just right there.
We're
If
looking
only
at
we could
we're
move
looking
the
at the date
cameras.
right now.
We're
actually.
packed with free time.
Oh, yeah, look there
Oh,
it is.
everybody got an alarm.
Oh,
What's that?
Emergency alert, tornado. So watch
Tornado
out.
warning.
Oh.
Everybody at home, please stay safe.
oh
Yes,
boy.
stay safe.
Yep, it's storming here.
Why is it always we're at church when we have to take shelter? Why
No
is that?
kidding.
We've had to take shelter here so many times.
Every
Man.
time that we come to the church, it's rained. Not one time have
If
we
we
came and
survive,
it
we'll see
didn't
you in 2
rain.
weeks.
Rain.
Oh yeah, if we survive, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Yeah. 'cause-
Otherwise, if this is the finale, thanks for watching.
yeah.
We love you guys so much.
Let's
Put a book in my
Can you
face.
stop it now?
What?
Put a book in my